Oh, we're doing this again. Not entry-level bikes this time, mid-range bikes. That are cool. The criteria is, would Thierry Henry ride it? If yes, it's got Vavavoom. Therefore, it is cool.
What is Vavavoom?
What is a mid-range bike? Well, we've set a limit of £5,000, which on one hand sounds absolutely insane, but on the other hand is significantly less than half the price of all the top-end bikes. So, don't worry, they're not all £5,000. This one nearly is. Oh, and nothing in this video is sponsored. The Condor Italia RC Limited with Ultegra Di2. A made in Italy aluminium racing bike with carbon fork from British brand Condor. And of course, it's purple. For the original people who watched the first episode of this, they know that the only thing you got to do to make a bike cool is to make it purple. And they have succeeded here. It's 4,470 quid. Or £1,500 for the frame set. Now, Condor was founded in 1948 by a guy called Monty Young. It's a London bike shop with some pretty cool history. They always had ties to bike racing and they'd show up and volunteer at local bike races, eventually launching their own race team in 1955, which eventually evolved into the peak of cool, in road cycling at least, Rafa Condor in 2006. These guys would turn up to races looking different. Dressed in all black, which was not normal to see in 2006. They tore up the Premier calendars and the Tour Series, which were races in the UK, super tight criteriums, in city centres. Some would say the hardest circuit races in the world. There's been World Tour riders who have kind of moved team, ended up in one of the UK teams, raced these crits, and they didn't win straight away. I raced against this team a few times. It was not a pleasant experience. Anyway, that team existed for about 10 years, which was amazing for bike racing in the UK, and a very cool thing for Condor to put their name to. This is a much more modern version of the bikes that they were racing on, but I think it keeps the vibes, and will tick all the boxes for a lot of people's riding needs. Do you need any more convincing that Condors are cool? Well, if you do, Mick Jagger bought one. Back to the bike. It's made in Italy, maybe in the same place as some other well-known Italian aluminium bikes. They do a limited edition purple one, which is new, and then the standard greenie, which is lush as well. They are a real bricks and mortar shop. So I imagine they'll be really helpful during the buying process, and if things go wrong, they won't be able to escape. Joking aside, they're a nice small business, and despite having these builds listed on their website, the whole thing is about custom speccing. So if you went to them and you wanted a different build to this, or you maybe had your own stuff and you wanted to get it built up, I'm sure they'll be very helpful during that process. And I think they'll be pretty helpful in getting you the right size too. It's also available with Shimano 105, but with all the same spec otherwise for £3,762, so I think it's safe to call it mid-range. There are also so many other cool bikes that they make. I'd urge you to check out the website. Look at this steel one. Yep. They even do a rim brake version of the Italia, if that's your bag. Check them out. And now for something completely different, the Canyon Aeroad Rival. There had to be one big fat aero bike on here. Currently reduced from £4,399 to £4,019. This is an aero carbon bike spec'd with the new SRAM Rival 65mm deep DT Swiss carbon wheels, not affected by the current DT Swiss wheel massive recall. It also has all the mad stuff Canyon put on their racing bikes, like adjustable handlebars, with the aero version of the drops. If you look in the product specs, you can see these are included when they aren't usually. Usually you got to buy them separately, so I'm not sure why they're on this build, but they are cool, for reasons I will discuss in a second. Coolness aside, I have ridden the Canyon Aeroad with both of these handlebars, and I prefer the aero ones. They have a much shallower drop, so they don't feel as extreme when you move from the hoods to the drops. The width options go from 35 centimeters to 40 centimeters, and they have 19 degrees of flare, which is quite a lot and very noticeable when you're riding them. Look at the angle your shifters end up at. You don't need to do that thing where you angle your shifters in, and you're never sure if someone's bike has been crashed or it's aero. When you're riding an aero road, I feel like these are the handlebars you'd want, and I'm kind of surprised they don't come stocked with them as standard. We reviewed a version of this bike probably over a year ago now, and regardless of the shape of the drops, I love the movable handlebars. I find the lack of adjustment when you buy a bike with a one-piece cockpit system really annoying. And I know loads of people buy what seems like the right size bike, and then the width of the handlebars is wrong, and then it is a massive palaver or just very expensive to get them switched over. Some of these cockpits can be like 800 quid, and then there's the labour, because you usually have to re-bleed your brakes, and if you haven't got tools like this, then you're paying a mechanic to do that. That can be hundreds of pounds. Not what you want to be doing when you've just paid lots of money for a brand new bike. These are great to try and remedy that situation, and for someone who just likes to experiment. This is a pretty good compromise from Canyon, with the added benefit of including widths for smaller riders who are often left out. The paint job is definitely one of the nicer ones, in my opinion at least. It's kind of an urban camo looking thing, so when you're out riding in cities, you're invisible, so you're more likely to get run over. That was a joke. You're not more likely to get run over riding this bike. Please don't sue me, Canyon. For the price, this is going to be a very, very fast bike, and it seems to be a cut above the other big brands' offerings when you look at what you get on their rival builds for around the same money. The Tarmac rival, for example, that's from Specialized, you aren't getting a carbon cockpit. You aren't getting a carbon cockpit or deep carbon wheels. So it's faster. Therefore, this bike is cool, and Thierry Henry agrees. What's next? Okay, let's not be unfair to Specialized. They do have one very cool bike, the Alley Sprint. If I were to buy a Specialized, this is the one I'd get. Purple, obvious plus points, although the other paint jobs available in the UK is actually lovely looking as well. It's a racing bike, the same geometry as the carbon Tarmac, but made of aluminium with a carbon fork. This makes it much more affordable at £2,599 with 105. The full build. Aluminium bikes tend to be very stiff, and I've ridden one of these. This is no exception, especially with the slightly aero-y shaped tubing. Probably doesn't help. It might be to the point of being a bit uncomfortable if you're riding on UK roads, which are full of potholes. But to be honest, that's been my experience on all aluminium road bikes at least. And then I suppose if you're a young bike racer, you don't care. It's internally routed cables, so nice and neat. It's aero, according to Specialized. It has a threaded bottom bracket, which I like because I can replace it more easily. And it has the fantastic Shimano 105 group set. Crisp shifting, but that's the highest spec one they do. You could easily race this spec of bike, and being through axle, there's an opportunity for upgrades if you wanted to do that later on. The promo for this bike on the Specialized website has their old team Legion riding it, which I think is great, but then all of the bikes have top-end SRAM Red on, and you can't even buy one with SRAM Red on. Maybe they did at one point. This bike and all of that promo material is actually quite a few years old now, so perhaps we're expecting something new from Specialized soon. Eyes peeled. Next is the Standard Kreisiger Standard version. Not the RS, which is the one we reviewed. The Standard.
Oh.
Right, despite this being a cool bikes video, I'm still not sure if Standard is cool or uncool. But you can all decide in the comments and we can have a big argument about it. My stance is, I don't care what anyone else is riding. If I think it's cool, then it's cool. Standard is a German brand who only make metal bikes. They have a cult following. They are big on the internet, on Instagram. You see people riding them in trendy places like Berlin and Girona, and the bikes have cats on them. We reviewed the top Kreisiger RS from Standard a while back. Great bike, but very expensive. And they do a less expensive version of the Kreisiger called the Kreisiger. They save cost by using cheaper aluminium tubing and getting the bikes manufactured in southern China instead of Italy, where the RS version is made. If you think this is cool, then it's probably going to lead to you looking at this bike in your kitchen and going, oh yeah, and then going for a ride, which means more time outdoors on a bike and then more fun, which is cool. But if you don't think it's cool, then don't buy one. On the topic of Instagram, we've had people write into our podcast before bringing up the idea of fashion brands within cycling. A shift in the design of cycling kit and bikes, which this might be an example of. Bike marketing used to be very race-focused. People bought the bike that the pro was winning on, and that's how it was marketed. Whereas now, we have some people buying the bike that influencers, the dreaded word, are riding, and they're seeing on the internet. The marketing being much more lifestyle-based. Maybe there's a few more coffee shops, not just professional racing focused. And Despite clearly annoying some people, I don't think it's a bad thing. 1, it's far more attainable. 2, do I want more people riding bikes regardless of how they got into it? Yes. More cyclists means safer roads. I think it's the biggest driver of safety in cycling, more people on bikes, because it leads to governments having to adapt, put better infrastructure in, more people driving cars, getting used to driving their cars around people who are riding bikes. But also all those people who are getting into cycling probably drive cars as well, and then they're gonna be driving their car and see a cyclist and they'll know what it's like to be in that position, and then probably not run them over as much. We definitely want more people riding bikes, especially if it's the coffee shops. Anyway, that was a massive tangent. Standard Kreisliga, cool bike. Probably not for everyone, but I think overall a very good thing that they exist. If you think it's cool, you should get one and ride it. There's no frame set buying option, which is kind of annoying, but €3,799 for Ultegra Di2 with shallow DT Swiss wheels. Price is a bit steep, but it's definitely mid-range. Beware, there might be some import duties and stuff, because they're in German. Included in that price, you also get a carbon one-piece bar and stem, not the fancy polymer one like on the Kreisliga RS, but clearly they've paid attention to the details and understand their audience. Very slick looking bike, nice tubing, really good paint jobs, great design. Check them out. And now for something that caught my eye, and I just keep thinking about. The Mason Definition Integral. It's aluminium again. I haven't done this on purpose. I really have just listed mid-range bikes that look quite cool, and it turns out all of the cool carbon bikes are like, well, most of them are £1 million. So they can't be mid-range. This is made in Italy, but a British brand. There's 2 versions of this definition. Both are labelled endurance bikes, the 3 and the Integral, which is the one that caught my eye. They did this launch edition build with SRAM 1x and the Aero chainring thing, which I am a sucker for. The Integral is low stack, so it's going to be a slightly more aggressive frame, and it has full internal cable routing through the headset, completely hidden, which some of you will hate. But we're not talking about practicality here, we're talking about coolness. Speaking of which, it's electronic shifting only and has no mudguard mounts or rack mounts, whereas the 3 does, and it takes mechanical. So the 3 is significantly more practical, but not as cool. It's £1,550 for the frame set, and there are quite a few different spec options listed, but like with Condor at the start of the video, they're a small brand. Give them an email, and I'm sure they'll let you spec anything. Like the Aero chainring. Why is it on this list? Because it's eye-catching. It's a bit different. The fork is a weird shape. And look at the rear 6 days. Plus, you'll be supporting a small bike company, which is always a great thing to do. If you can think of any more definitely cool mid-range bikes, they're easy to identify because they're purple. Put them in the comment section down below. Share some of your lesser-known bike brands with us and the audience, and then we can all help each other find cooler bikes so we can go outside riding more and enjoy life. Speaking of which, I'm going to go and ride my bike. I don't have a purple one though. I should get a purple one.